what difference 100% literacy and, if not 100% education, some 50-60% education will make in sustaining the peace, because then only the understanding of the issues will be better. As far as the population explosion is concerned, we will talk it later on. So many governments have come and gone, and nobody has bothered to touch the hornet's nest, because then they are not going to get the votes, because it is connected to 77. This is what I wanted to say.
Jerry has been coming as a fresh breeze from time to time, and he would be coming again and again as an animator with out-of-the-box ideas. So let's hear him and then finally open the floor.
Basically, going to kind of provoke some thoughts, the reason being that these are thoughts which I have tried to grapple with, and I still grapple with them, right from the first campaign which I was involved with in 2002. And I remember we, along with an agency called Contract, a friend called Vinu, we came up with these two words, Diwali and Ramzan, Ram in Ramzan and Ali in Diwali. And that became the message for harmony because of what happened in Godhra, what happened in Gujarat. At that time, along with friends, along with senior colleagues like Mr. Harsh Mandar, Shabnam Hashmi, we led a movement to say that there is divisive politics happening here. And of course, the enemy at that time was NDA, which was BJP led. And what they did was wrong. What Mr. Narendra Modi did was wrong, because he turned the other way and let all that murder and killing and mayhem happen. We were the only few people, and I was with a NGO at that time, and we went on record and we said that what happened there was not a riot, it was a pogrom. But having said that, a whole lot of people at that time campaigned against BJP and started promoting Congress. But my point was that divisive politics is not only the agenda for BJP, it's also been the agenda for Congress. So if you look back into history with Bhagalpur riots or the Sikh riots, Congress has also had a hand in divisive politics. Divisive politics is their main agenda. We take sides with the Muslims, we take sides with the Dalits only when we are doing vote bank seeking. Finally, they are forgotten, because who is important is the companies, is the business people who can give us more money, for whom will tweak policy to say Monsanto can come in with their genetic modified foods, Coca-Cola can take the water which belongs to farmers, and then we say that those guys are Naxalites, because they have become Naxalites because they have no resources, which is what you rightly pointed out. Now look at that. So, and on the other side you have the Communist Party, which is so holier than thou, but they allowed Shingur to happen, because they wanted to give the land for Jaguar to make Jaguar cars and displace all the tribes over there. So who's really not divisive then? Nitish Kumar, somebody spoke about. I'm happy he won in Bihar and not that man called Lalu Prasad Yadav and his... the people of Bihar have shown sense and sensibility by voting a person into power whose agenda is development. He's not harped on the divide. He's not harped like Lalu, who everybody thinks is like pro-Muslim. Lalu is not pro-Muslim. Lalu is only pro-Lalu. So I think the people of India have to start thinking twice before they go to vote. Mr. Rao spoke about how people don't go to vote. And I remember Bombay, after all the people came out after 26/11 in their Guccis and Pradas with candles, they didn't go to vote. And when I speak to friends in Bombay, I say, why didn't you go to vote? And they say, whom do we vote for? Congress talks about being less communal or not communal at all. So how do you have people like Sanjay Nirupam in your party? Sanjay Nirupam, Narayan Rane, who are ex-BJP guys, have been the most communal forces. Omar Abdullah in Kashmir talks about being secular. Secular when? You went with the BJP when NDA had done that entire program in Gujarat only because you wanted a powerful power seat, and today you've gone with the Congress because you want a power seat. So you spoke in Parliament against the trust vote. But what are you doing? Are you governing anything? You do a fundraiser in Delhi to raise money for your wife's education NGO. How much did you raise? 1.5 crore? Because all the Sunil Mittals of the world came and gave you 10 lakhs or 20 lakhs of rupees. But you're misgoverning thousands of crores which are meant for education, and I don't see the poor children in Kashmir getting education or proper food and meals. So governance is the issue, and I think we all need to think and not be misled by all these parties with their agenda, because the agenda is only on paper, it's never implemented finally. The policies are only tweaked for businesses and the powerful business people who have lobbyists like Neera Reddy and others who lobby for them, right? I met farmers in Jalgaon and Dhule in Vidarbha, which is the belt where farmers are committing suicide. And you know, the checks they've got for failed crop because they had a hailstorm last year in November, 500 rupees as relief. You can't build a mud house with 500 rupees. Okay? 65,000 crores of taxpayers' money was announced by the Ministry of Finance as farmer waivers. Farmer waivers for whom? None of the poor farmers have got any farmer waivers. The rich farmers with 5 acres of land and more have got farmer waivers. And less than 10% of that 65,000 crores has been kind of deployed so far. Inefficient governance. So we've got to look into all this, and we always spoke as the Right Every Wrong as the Citizen Action Forum because we believe that the citizen is the most powerful in a democracy. And if we don't exercise our individual social responsibility, which is what we keep talking about, we have no right to just point fingers. Each of us has a role to play, and we have to own up to that responsibility. Thank you.
Thank you, Jerry. Yes, people of India, I think because of Citizens Action Group are moving on and on. The recent Bihar election has shown that. So let the India story move on, and let's also move on. First question, lady in the first row. Thank you.
Yeah, I have, kind of my thoughts on your question about the education system. Can it change if more and more people becoming educated? I think it's yes and no. Yes is answer is obvious. No is because I've realized that our education system, what it does is it tries to put like what do you call it, a square peg into a round hole, or that's what we're trying to do. We're so generalized, and we're just trying to, impose it on the whole entire country of India. I realized it again last week when I was in Nagaland. I was sitting with this priest who was running a school, and he said, these Naga kids are very bright. There isn't a dull child, okay? But they can't learn mathematics, So I'm going to take some extra classes and make sure that they learn mathematics. You give them 5 minutes, they run to the jungle, and they come back in 10 minutes. They like to be free. So I thought to myself, this is wrong. I mean, if you impose mathematics on them, then you're going to make them dull children, but play on their strengths. The curriculum has to change to suit them. They're right-brained people, they're creative people, and you have to strengthen their positive sides. A similar experiment has been done in Ladakh and found very successful. Ladakh, because it's parts of Jammu and Kashmir, the medium of education has been Urdu, Hindi, or English, and nobody knows that language, didn't know earlier. And the failure rate was 90% in government schools. So a Ladakhi, Sonam Wangchuk, he became an engineer, came back and started writing textbooks in Ladakhi with contextual information. And the primary student didn't have to learn about monsoon, who never saw a monsoon, And the people started, going to, the failure rate came down to 45% within few years, I think we should educate the right education, which is contextual and which is, designed for the people of that area. I think would be a good thing, and not just general, imposition.
Yeah, no, you had asked me that question, and let me just say this. There is no doubt about the fact that education leads to improvement. That's a no-brainer. I mean, it's